Hey, Steve here, and I wanted to talk to you about the cryptocurrency market. I've gotten questions in the past about what my thoughts are on this. First, let me start off. I am a nadex trader. I like trading nadex. I like trading simple systems on nadex. You can find some of my systems in the link below this video, but that is my main focus. Cryptocurrencies are interesting and fine, and I do plan on, I have some investments. They're relatively small. I plan on keeping them relatively small. And I'm going to kind of lay out my thoughts on cryptocurrencies, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and hopefully it's helpful to you. So first off, here is a chart of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is around $7,000 as I'm doing this video. So Bitcoin has 16.6 million Bitcoins in circulation with 21 million as the maximum supply. So there'll never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. So if you consider how many millionaires are in the world, that's actually not that many Bitcoin to go around. And that's going to be over the course of a few years. And the market cap is $121 billion. So there is still more Bitcoin to go. And then I'm going to show you. So this is a chart of Bitcoin. Again, it's around $7,000. It started January at about $1,000. So it's up about 700% for the year 2017 so far. Now this chart, remember that chart because I'm going to refer to it again in a little bit. Now, some benefits of Bitcoin, and I'll talk mostly about Bitcoin, but obviously there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies. The benefits of Bitcoin is a lot of the people that are getting into it tend to hold it and are looking at it as a long-term investment. So because of the limited supply, and if you get a lot of people that hold it and don't sell it, the price is obviously going to continue higher. The other good benefit to this is very worldwide. So if you're in the UK, you can buy Bitcoin and it's going to take money out of that particular supply. If you're in India, same thing. Zimbabwe, for example, they have issues with inflation and so forth. They're becoming big users of Bitcoin. Actually, their price is usually $2,000 to $3,000 more for their Zimbabwe exchanges as it is for, say, me in the US. So in a lot of countries, this is starting to become a more used currency, which when that happens, this is going to continue the price to go higher with limited supply. Now, there is limited supply, but there is hundreds of cryptocurrencies, and there'll be lots more coming on, which we'll talk about in a bit. Another positive is it's been announced that there'll be Bitcoin futures in the foreseeable future. Chicago Mercantile Exchange is working on that. There's also ETFs that are working, and some major banks and so forth will be putting this as part of their portfolio or ETFs, etc. The benefit of it working in, say, an ETF is if one of those is approved, is as the ETF grows in the number of subscribers that it has, the number of Bitcoins they'll have to purchase will continue higher. And the ETFs are not going to be trading in and out of Bitcoin every day on a massive volume at least. They will be getting in Bitcoin and exiting some Bitcoin from time to time. But as their ETF grows, they're going to have to add more and more Bitcoin, and they're going to have to hold it, which in theory would drive up the price as well, again, because there's limited supply versus, say, gold or something where there is limited supply of what you can mine and what's it worth being mined. But here on Bitcoin, you have a finite number. Obviously, there's other cryptocurrencies and other ones pop up all the time. be very careful of those. I would look at only ones that have a viable business reason to be around. And that brings us to the negative part. So in this chart, you can see the large move up, but I wanted to show you another chart. So the people who are very negative about Bitcoin, say it's like the tulip thing in the 1600s and so forth, we have had these kind of returns in the US and not that long ago. If you remember the dot-com bubble in 98, 99, and it burst 2000, you'll remember there was some amazing returns in that. And everybody was talking about it would lead the news, such and such a company just became an IPO today and it's up 600% and so forth and so on. This is a chart of Amazon. To start 1998, it was around $5. To close 1998, it was $53. It had 1,000% return in 1998 for Amazon. I think it was the biggest return for the Nasdaq that year. If you do like a search on Google of just what's the best stocks and what were the best stocks in 1998 or 1999, you'll get a few articles that were written around that time. And it's fascinating to kind of read them now. But for example, in 1999, which is just insane, the NASDAQ composite itself went up 85%. So the whole index went up 85%, which was a record. Everybody, like I said, was talking about all these tech things, and some people were saying it's a bubble, and other people were saying, why are these stocks that don't have any revenue worth more than GM and so forth and so on. And obviously the bubble popped. Another example here is Qualcomm, 1999, best performing, and went up 2,600%. And obviously these things fell after a while. 12 other stocks were up over 1,000%, and 7 other stocks were up at least 900%. And I bring all this up because a lot of the cryptos are up amazing amount. Bitcoin is up, 700%. Ethereum's up like 2,000%. I think Litecoin is up, well over 1,000%. And everybody's crying, well, this is crazy, and it is. And this is where I think we are in the cryptocurrency time, where we are somewhere in this line of 98, 99, where the market just was crazy and nuts, and obviously the bubble burst, and and even Amazon, which at the time was probably only selling books at a loss, but it took a little while. March 2001, it was back down to $10, and actually I think it went lower than that. And this is split adjusted, by the way. So September of 01, it was around $5-6. And you can see obviously in the chart, so $1,100 today, but they are one that made it and lasted. And you can have, for every one Amazon, there's probably 50 eToys and other ones that just didn't make it because they weren't based on anything that had any revenue worthwhile. And that's what you have in cryptocurrencies today. You have a lot of cryptocurrencies. The barrier to entry to start a cryptocurrency is basically nothing. You can start one yourself. Then it's about getting enough people to buy in, and then it's about getting on an exchange to make it. And there's a lot that will not ever make it to an exchange, and there's a lot that will make it to an exchange and will become worthless. So be very careful in that. I do think we're somewhere in that range of, say, 1998, 1999 for the cryptos. I do think there's a correction. Now, Bitcoin could get to 20,000 before there's a correction, and the correction might only come down to 5,000. I don't know. But I do think there is a little bit too much excitement on it. I do think cryptocurrencies are here to stay. So if you ask me, fast forward 10 years, do I think Bitcoin is around? Yes, I do. I do think cryptocurrencies will continue. This is kind of the evolution of money. You know, if you think about, for example, you know, in the US here, we had lots and lots of different currencies back when the US was established. I think there was 20 or 30 or 40 different currencies depending on what region of the country you're in. And then, of course, we had the Confederate money. That went away in the Civil War. We've had the US dollar. We've had it backed by gold, not backed by gold. We've had the euro, which is a fairly new currency, last 25 years or so. I do think this is a thing that will continue in the currency markets for a long time. I do think of another negative. I think it's hard to understand for the average person. Just me signing up for an exchange and a Coinbase account and a Gemini account and all these different accounts, I thought was tedious, time consuming. And as far as the blockchain and exactly how that all works and all those kind of things, that's difficult for the average person. It's difficult for me itself as well. So I think as things progress, it will get easier. I do think which will long term be very beneficial to Bitcoin and some of the other top flight ones. But I'd be very careful on which ones you buy and kind of focus on that. So I am putting money into currencies, cryptos. I tend to focus, or I will tend to focus on the ones that have probably larger market caps and so forth, and add to my positions from time to time, maybe on every 6 months or a yearly basis or something. But this is not going to be my main interest by any means. Nadex and binary options trading via my systems is the thing that I'm most interested in. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If you had any thought of where I was on the cryptocurrency. If you do have any other questions, feel free to email me. I'll be glad to answer them best I can, or take a look at the comment section. And just below this video, I'll have some links to different things as well. So hopefully it's helpful. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Lastly, I wanted to kind of put things in perspective a little bit for you as well. Here I'm at the Dave Ramsey investment calculator. I think it's a cool little calculator to play around with. But anyways, I just put in a random age of 50 and plan to retire 60, just so it's a 10-year frame. And $7,000, which is basically the price of Bitcoin right now. And you're not contributing anything to it monthly. If you got a 30% annual return for your particular investment of $7,000, you would have about a $96,000 Bitcoin. So if you think Bitcoin is going to increase to $100,000 over the next 10 years, if you believe that, that's the equivalent of 30% return annually every single year for the next 10 years. So if you think it's $1 million, you can do those numbers as well. So, and just to tell you it's $1 million, you would need about 65% return every single year for those 10 years. So if you think Bitcoin is going to $1 million in 10 years, you need that's basically 65% return. Now you have to ask yourself if you can get that kind of investment return anywhere else. For example, my euro pound system for this year is well over 100% for the year. We have other systems that do very well also, and I have a little bit more control over it than just say a Bitcoin, which could go from 7,000 to 2,000 as well. And my systems might not work long term either, so who knows? But so kind of put it in perspective. So, you know, if you really think it's going to 1 million over 10 years, that's the equivalent of 65%. If you can find one stock that returns 65% in a year and then pick a new one every year, that's going to work out to be the same, obviously, without taxes and all that stuff. So so a lot of times we get really hyped up about these kind of things, but once you break it down and put the numbers to it, it kind of becomes a little bit more clear. So if you don't think Bitcoin will be $1 million in 10 years, and you think it will only be, you know, $50,000 in 10 years, you got to figure out if it's worth to even invest. So here it's $51,000. That's actually a 22% return on investment every single year for the next 10 years. So if you think Bitcoin is going to be $51,000, that's what you need to get in return over the next 10 years. So hopefully that's helpful to kind of work it out in your mind to see if that's kind of returns that you're even looking for. So I'll talk to you all later. Take care.